Let's jump into it. What do we got? 20 past or 19 past 10 on 29th of May. So CPI Tuesday, CPI Wednesday. Just forget what day of the week it is. So since it's CPI day for Aussie dollar, we're going to start off with the Aussie dollar. Just a little sort of recap of how this has sort of played out recently. Look, these are the areas that we were targeting. As you can see, market has respected this beautifully. Look, over the weekend, where was Monday? So this is where we were sort of coming Monday, and I said, look, here's the channel. We had this negative divergence. We've seen the negative divergence play out here, popped itself out of the channel, and look, from the start of the week, basically, it has just sort of pushed up and run and run and run. And so, as you can see, market came up here, tested that first level. This is why we sort of go back, and this is why we sort of mark out and we say, look, if we're going to put sort of little TPs along the way, getting better at sort of like holding runners. If you watch anything that I do, I'm not a sort of a dude that sort of really buys the bottom and holds and just doesn't do anything. I'm overly, probably to my detriment as well, micromanage my trade sometimes. But the point is, I have TPs, I have levels, and I take profit because this is the point of the game. Like, there's no point sort of holding this and then coming back down here and just making nothing off it. So you have your TPs, you take your profit, you leave your runners, and maybe you get onto something that goes through the roof and doesn't come back for a while. But, for the here and now and the day-to-day grind, certainly we look at sort of where has the market priced this previously. And you can see it here, and this is why it's marked out. And if you go through the videos, you see when I mark these things out. So it's not just sort of like a after the fact kind of thing. It's like, okay, we've seen the market has priced it along here. We've seen the market that's priced it up the top over here. Whether it to be a buy or a sell, we know we're going to see some sort of reaction here. And you can see that the market tried 3 candles here, and this is on a 4-hour. So a 4-hour candle looking a little bit bearish here, but obviously managed to hold it and then push through to the top side, and then obviously take out this next top target over here as well. So it was a pretty interesting night overnight, actually, because DXY has just been on a pretty strong sort of sell down. I'll get to that in a moment because I was actually trading with a mate at the time, and I was sort of pointed out, look, we got a bit of a negative divergence. There was a little channel, that it was sort of playing into as well. Both of these things provided exact bottoms for that little push down on DXY, and we're sort of seeing that sort of continue through a little bit at the moment. Excuse me. But anyway, that's DXY. I'll get to that in a moment. So now we're seeing Aussie pull back from this little run here. We knew, look, the market was going to be a little bit stronger and sort of sell it down here. This is back RBNZ time last week where they had a hawkish hold. We gave it a little run for a second and then bang. Obviously, you can see the outcome after that there. So back up here, retested this again. And like I say, time and time again, as you've come back up here, it's given a chance for people to reload up here. People that may sort of, like myself, trading this is where they're going to take profits. People that are sort of like, trying to short it, and they're going, okay, this is a last little line of defense. So they're going to try and hammer it down and sell it down from here again. And that's what we've seen. But every time you tap into these levels, you're weakening it a little bit. So, if we can get another rally up over here, as I said, we've got CPI, that's a big driver. That's a good chance that we could see a push through to the top side. Now, if we have a look at sort of where we're actually at for the data, so where are we at? We actually have a little bit of low-tiered news coming out in 6 minutes. The leading index month-on-month MI. Not really too au fait with that one. I don't really sort of follow it too much. As I said, the big one's the CPI. Previously at 3.5%, expected to tip down to 3.4%. So if they do get it down, and they get it down in line with expectations, the idea is, well, at least the idea with it coming in lower is that they're on top of inflation at the current cash rate. So if it's moving in the right direction, then there's probably less of a need for them to crank up the rates, I hike. Obviously that'll put sort of pressure on the economy. That'll sort of can sort of push things towards sort of recessions, businesses going bust, all this kind of sort of stuff. So if it is doing what their desired effect is with the current cash rate, i.e. sort of inflation coming down, there's less cause for them to push up the rates, less cause for them to push up the rates or hold the rates higher for longer, sorry. Well, that's going to be detrimental to the Aussie, and we're going to see Aussie push to the downside. Now, if they get it wrong and it does come in higher, or it comes in, even if it probably comes in as expected, I would say, I think the bigger sort of idea is if it comes in as expected, maybe a fairly muted response, but I would still say that tips towards a more hawkish view that, we've seen it, we've given it a couple of months. They say they're always relying on waiting for the data. Well, here it is. And if they're not getting on top of this, they need to do something. And really, when they say they need to do something or need to use the tools at their disposal, what they really mean is crank up the rates. That's it. There's no real other tools in their sort of toolbox kind of thing. It's just that's what they do. So if we see a high print, we're going to see Aussie push up. Now, obviously, there's other factors as to sort of how high it goes and all this kind of stuff, because we're seeing DXY on a rip, even though I know Aussie's not part of the DXY, but it's US dollar broad sensor on the market. So where are we at with the Aussie? So if we have a look at this move so far, so it's been a nice little bounce off the low. As I said, negative divergences, they're great for bottoms. This particularly as well, very nice and trappy, as you can see through coming here. Excuse me. We have pushed up, okay, cooling off a little bit now. Yeah, we're seeing that across the board with the market. We're seeing sort of euro coming back down. We're seeing China pushing up. Metals holding. I'll get to metals in a moment, but with the Aussie back at the 38%. So this is still in a very bullish momentum trend for this little sort of recovery move here. One move, two move, potentially to do this. If we do get a high print, and this is where we're going to be looking up. Up above this level over here, we have a look up where is the market valued at, and we can see up around low 67s is definitely the most recent area in which they tried to sell it down from. Above that, we're coming into a high time frame resistance area at 67.30s. Now, this one, as I said a couple of times, if we jump back a little bit over here, we can see this was a massive congestion zone start of the year. So again, it takes a while to sort of get through these parts here. So it's not to sort of say that it won't go through, but it's probably going to need not just a sort of higher print with the CPI, it's going to need that with a combination of a sell-off of US dollar, breaking a couple of the key levels, and that's what's going to get Aussie up and over this top level over here. So at the moment, it's market's obviously selling it down a little bit. They're expecting it, to come in a little bit cooler with the inflation. So that would see a sort of deeper pullback on the Aussie. If we do see that, look, if you're wanting to sort of look for buys, you probably would be looking, a fairly decent level would be maybe around this area here, 61% retracement. This is also the breakout level of this little channel. So, there's a good chance that if we do sort of see a bit of a push down here, 66.20s would probably be offering a little bit of a push back up along this way. Not to sort of say that it'll go all the way back up there, but I would say sort of like, to a certain degree, unless we come in like super low, I would say there's probably more of a chance of it sort of finding some sort of rally around this area here. We just got to wait for that DXY to sort of cool off, which I'm having a look at the moment. It's just gapped up on open and then just pushed up straight away. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that gap attempt to close at some stage as well. So yeah, CPI out in just over an hour and 2 minutes. And we'll sort of see how the data falls with that, and then sort of trade the outcomes of it all. Low print, I would say we're coming down to 66.20. High prints, I'll be looking for a break above 66.70 to then be targeting 67.10, 67, low 67s, and then I expect a little bit of profit taking as we come up into this area. All right, and speaking of DXY, so this is what I was saying last night. So I've put on the 1 hour, you can probably see it a little bit better. Is this the chart we were using? I just hand drew it. But this was the little negative divergence that we were sort of looking at the time. So we had this falling resistance, which obviously respected a couple of times. But coming into this last push down here, we can see this move down here. A little neg D, and we can see quite clearly the push up here at the same time. So, the negative divergence, they're a great sort of indicator of reversals, but, they are a little bit, still got to take a little bit of a gamble, because it was up here at the moment. It hadn't obviously, this part doesn't exist on the RSI. So it's coming through to this point just here. And this could very much just sort of be setting it up to then roll down and come down over here as well. But, after seeing these things multiple, thousands of times, you start to be able to pick up the levels a little bit, and you can go, oh, the idea of it, and you can say, look, there's a high chance that we're about to see this. Also, the fact with this one as well was that, we were coming into known areas of support, which is what we've got down over here, marked out for these two. And if you look at the weekend video, this is where I was saying I was looking at. These are the two levels that I was interested in for DXY, which was the 104.50 and 104.40. We've obviously sort of taken out the bottom side of this lot here, and then we've just seen that bang, spring back into life. And it's really just sort of pushed right up sort of through here. So there was a little bit of news out overnight that sort of helped bolster this kind of move, and it was at 12 o'clock. So there's actually this candle here. So it obviously made a little move prior to it all. It was consumer confidence, and that's the US consumer confidence. So 97.5 was the revised previous. They were expecting a little bit of a tick down, which is fair enough, 96, and it came in at 102. So it beat it quite substantially. So, I mean, in theory, what they're sort of saying here is, I think it's on a basket of 3,000 people or something that they do these little surveys. They're seeming pretty happy about things in the economy, which I'm going to call bullshit on that. I don't think. I mean, who at sort of ground roots level, Joe Sixpack, is sort of walking around saying, "Yep, I feel pretty confident about the outlook." Apart from sort of like the data that comes out of the US from the Fed, which admittedly sometimes is a little bit questionable. Who's sort of really running around and sort of saying, "Yeah, man, confidence is through the roof, petrol prices great." You know what I mean? Cost of living. Every time you turn on the TV, people are sort of complaining and crying about this sort of stuff. Oh, back in 2 secs. All right, I'm back. Yeah, so look, we saw this little bounce moved up over here. It was a crazy sort of little bit of price action, as I said, sort of through last night because we had metals just absolutely sort of go crazy for a moment there. So I've just got to manage a little position that I've got going. Metals just absolutely sort of flew right up around this sort of time as well. So silver's undone pretty much. Well, it did undo all of last week's drop, which I'll sort of get to in a moment in that. But gold much above the 23%. I'm just having a look on this other chart over here. So, certainly, it's not really reacting with this massive sell down of DXY. We haven't seen sort of gold really sort of take advantage to sort of like obviously undo the moves here. We've seen DXY take out last week's weekly lows. Gold only managed to come back up just over 23%, not even up to the 38% retracement of that move. So, certainly seeing gold sort of lag a little bit. What we will sort of expect to sort of see possibly with DXY is this little area through here where we sort of had it marked out. This was obviously a little bit of a target area support coming into the close of last week. We had that Friday sell down. Come Monday, it attempted to go through here a couple of times, sold down, and then did that one snap back up into it, and then bang, came back down over here, which gave us that little sort of bear flag that we saw sort of playing out yesterday. So I would expect, as we come back up into it, as I say time and time again, that, not that one, because the market has previously attempted and successfully sold it down from this level, I would imagine that we see a little bit of a pushback here. So in the next hour or so, we do have a little bit of a gap this morning, and it's just really sort of taken off and pushed. And as I said, we had that consumer confidence out, and I think there was a Fed speaker at 3 o'clock, so I haven't actually sort of seen, so I can't comment on that as to what they had to sort of say. But I mean, this is really just quite a big push up here. And again, I keep saying negative divergences, that's what they do. So, you could expect it to sort of push up a little bit here, came through the falling resistance, and now it's pushing up towards the top side over here. So what I'd sort of expect from here is potentially a tap into this zone over here. Let's really put this onto a smaller sort of thing, make it a single line. And that one. a tap into this zone here, then I expect it to come back and at least sort of close this gap over here. So put a little line just over here. And so close Wednesday's gap. Whatever. We know what it is. Anyway, regardless, close Wednesday's gap. So this is what I'm sort of looking for a play out of this lot here. We have sort of seen gold is, it's holding the bounce of yesterday, but, it's failing to sort of knock that through right now. It's actually just putting in a new sort of morning low back down to 57 from a 61 open. I expect this to sort of hold up and then sort of see a little bit of a push back up in metals as we do see this little sell down coming through here as well. So we'll have to sort of wait and see what happens here. Look, there's always a chance. We've got the alert set up here. If this does want to take it out and put in a new sort of weekly high, then we could sort of see things move back up. And, we look for the sort of smaller little areas where we might see some movement around here and around here. So what's that at 82 and 93 respectively, sort of coming up through here. They're kind of little upper side targets that, we could see a little bit of a sell down to this sort of effect. Or sort of obviously sort of up to the top side there. But I think certainly we will see a little bit of a sell-off in the next sort of, in the next hour or so to sort of at least attempt to sort of come down here and close the gap. So, typically sort of these gaps do close. As you can see, a tiny little one here is closed. Just trying to sort of see if I can pick them out at the moment. Mostly it's been opening fairly flat recently. But yeah, so we do see these gaps tend to close during the session. If it doesn't close straight away, then obviously it'll push up in the opposite direction because it hasn't closed, but that'll generally add it for a little bit of a target, and we'll see a quick sort of sell down and then potentially another move to sort of see if this move is finished here, and this will be the leg that we're looking for to sort of see if this goes through the resistance. As we see this. All right, cool. Flick across. We got gold. As I mentioned a moment ago, it's look, it's come off quite well from the support areas. Like we said, 23.30. It's a level we've seen over and over and over and over again. It's been pretty heavy, sort of trading up through here. So if you look at this, like, okay, here's the sell down with gold, and I'll flick across to silver. That's the sell down with silver. Silver's gone bang, all the way back up to the top. It's completely undone that move from Wednesday last week, all the way back up there, 100% of it all. Flick back to gold, and you can see it's just really lagging coming through here. So if we get rid of this for the moment, clean this up a little bit. If we look at that sort of same Wednesday night, so it's probably around this move here that we started to see things sort of melt down. And there you go. So as I said, while silver is equivalent for the same percentage recovery move as gold being back up to, well above 2,400, it's still sort of down, sort of struggling through these levels over here. So it means that if you do happen to get some sort of big push on DXY, and that does happen to catch a sort of sustained bid, that we could see sort of gold come under a little bit of pressure here. Because, despite that USD selling off, wherever the money's going, it's not going into gold. Well, at the moment, it's not anyway. So we're seeing a little bit, you could almost call it a little bit of a channel sort of coming through here. So, yeah, certainly, as I said, look, if we see DXY rip up to the top side, they're already not buying gold. As soon as they're sort of, buying the US dollar, well, the people that are in gold are going to see that and they're going to go, well, okay, maybe we can get a better return putting our money into the US dollar for the moment. I do think that we are going to sort of eventually grind back up to retest this 2,400 level at least. But obviously, as we're seeing, it's a hard effort sort of coming up through here. Every time it sort of breaks to a new high, it just seems to fail just a little bit more with it all. So it did have that good push last night. I was watching this again, so trading it at the same time. And we got this big push up here. But as much as we got this big push out to the top side, where we are here, so through just this little, well, sort of short-term resistance that we were trading intraday, look at the sell down afterwards though. It spikes up here and you think, okay, cool, here, here's resistance, 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 big breakout, and then boom, straight on the nose, down 16 bucks, the next hour, the next 1 hour candle. So whatever's happening, whether it's sort of manipulation or it is actual selling, the people that do like to sell it have got some weight behind it and they can really push this thing, no matter what they're sort of doing with it all. Look, as I said, I still think that we have a move to at least 2400, if not actually probably higher. But we're going to see a little bit of effort come here. So I'm just sort of dragging this one. I hadn't actually followed this one through. Kind of coming into a little bit of a resistance there. I'm not a big fan of this one because I think it's, if anything, not a big fan of this sort of falling resistance here, but obviously, this was respected quite a number of times. We've grinded back through to it here. So maybe if we do see a push above this sort of, 63.70 area, you got a couple of things. You're above this falling resistance. You're above this potential sort of rising resistance. You got some horizontals around this area as well. We've seen that the market likes to sort of sell it here on the way up. So, you could expect that we're going to see a little bit of this on the way back down, so way back up as well. So yeah, I think sort of above 70, as I've sort of mentioned actually from the weekend as well. That's the level that I'd be sort of interested to see how the market really values it, to see if they want to sort of say, hey, look, we can take this out and we're going to drive it back up, or if that's just going to be too much for it, and then we're going to have this drive back down to the bottom side here to test for 2330 to see if that can sort of hold. For now, again, it's back into sort of Asia grind kind of thing. So typically, I've always said in the past, I give gold about a $5 leeway in Asia session. It doesn't typically move a great deal. The last couple of weeks, you can see how big some of these moves have been. And obviously, some of these have been coming through the Asia session. So I think we get a little bit sort of complacent, sort of thinking that, hold on, wait, maybe gold does move in Asia a little bit more. But I think that's just been that brief period. As you can see yesterday, it was really just range, range, range throughout the day, and then sort of come into, Europe pre-market, bang, sold down. Obviously, it recovered a lot here, but this is what we were actually sort of looking at and sort of thinking that we may see happen because obviously everybody's been selling it last week. You got a bank holiday through this period here. Where sort of like, London and New York and that are sort of like, on holiday. So as soon as they come back to the desks, well, price is up here. They think, great, well, I've been selling it all the way down to here. Now I've got a chance to sell it here. Bang, and they hammered it again. Obviously bounced up and took out the highs of that. So, I mean, they'd have to also be respecting that as well. So, yeah, I think we'll sort of see how we go with gold. I mean, if we put this onto a smaller little time frame here, again, it's called this your little break level here. So intraday, or at least through Asia session, close above 61. I think will show us a good reason to sort of get a little bit of a push to the top side. 68, and then sort of, as I said, around those mid 70s, these kind of areas over here, I'm going to sort of be watching to sort of see if it can actually find what it needs to get through here. I think we are going to see, as I said a moment ago, a sell down on DXY. I think that's going to give us at least a little bit of a reason to test topside action here. So, it would sort of work in the theory that DXY closes the gap, gold gets a push to the top side here. If DXY then closes the gap and bounces and sort of continues on its morning run, then we'll see a failed breakout and then push back down over here. If it doesn't, if it closes the gap and then just continues to take out the lows, I think that's when we'll see gold push to the top side and maybe potentially look at these higher levels over here. So I'm watching to sort of see what DXY does. Firstly, obviously, that it sells down. Secondly, what happens as we put the alarm on it when it closes the gap. I think that's going to be telling for what's going to be happening for the rest of the session. Okay, across the copper. copper, as I said before, metals just had this big run. Look at copper punch up through here as well. These made some very ugly candles. I actually got out of all my silver through this period last night. So I did sort of catch the ties of it, and then it grinded mainly back up. Very similar price action with silver in this little period here, in which it had that big spike and then grinded back up to the top side. But I closed in that spike. I was thinking, hey, isn't that great? You know, I've got out. And then, you know, hindsight anyway, it looks to have sort of pretty much made up most of that move anyway. So that's okay. It was good to sort of clear that out. Silver's been a great run off the lows there. So we are sort of seeing it sort of push back up. You know, this isn't. Let me get back onto the 4 hour and move this, because this was the price target coming up through here, of course. So it's not necessarily a level. But we can see market was trying to sell it down here, push down, and we've broken through at this stage. So again, I'm chalking it up to Asia being a fairly sort of slow start for it all. We are seeing a little bit of a sell down. This is pretty much on par with the fact that we're seeing DXY sort of push up a little bit this morning as well. But you know, if it can sort of hold this area through here and then sort of take out this morning's highs and obviously last night's wick high, that'll probably be the better indicator. So put a little alert here. So previous D1 wick highs. If we can take that out there, then I think we're going to be moving back up. And this is that sort of same level that we'd be looking at over here. And yeah, this one pretty much corresponds with the same price action as we saw with gold and with silver, basically all the metals, where this was the level that gave way, bang. So, you know, copper is obviously sort of trading a little bit heavy as well. If we have a look at how it's sort of come back from its thing, you can see it tapped into the 38% retracement, but obviously finding some resistance here. So what I take away from this is silver has massively outperformed gold and copper in this environment at the moment. And there is a sort of say that sort of like if you're in a true bull market, silver will outperform gold. So that could be an indicator that, you know, certainly these metal sessions aren't finished quite yet. Okay, and across to China as it continues its grind. Yeah, this is just, you know what I mean? This is what I was saying, coming down here. This is why you have the two sort of forms as well. Had this little channel, and then I had this horizontal here. Obviously, looked, it tried to get outside, technically a little bit of a close outside here, and then a little bit of a close outside here. And what does it do? Jams back up to the top side. So look, it's really sort of come back up to the top over here. I deleted it, but this was somewhere, I think, around here or something. So coming into what would have been the top side move price target. I'm not looking long on this, and this has really just been a complete sort of grind back up to this level here. But as you can see, you know, there is a cap over here where the market has sold it down and sold it quite violently as it gets up into this 728 level. Above that, then we could be looking at something pretty serious. But for now, I would say that these lower levels are probably sort of where we might start to see something. But it feels like a thing that I sort of say every single day, doesn't it? Soon, and it just keeps grinding higher and higher and higher. So yeah, we'll have to sort of see how this goes. Obviously, you know, once this does eventually sell down, we'll see a little bit of a flow through to the Aussie. But as this is sort of pushing up to the top side here, weaker yuan doesn't help the Aussie necessarily. So yeah, I think we've got a little bit more to push to the top side here potentially, but I wouldn't be surprised if these two red lines here, this 726.9 and 727.3, they sort of offer eventually a final little cap for it all. Sort of have to see how this comes through here, because obviously this was the negative divergence we were looking at. It's sold down and, you know, it's making lower lows, but it's still making higher highs over here. So is this going to be a third higher high through here? Change the color of these. Is this going to be a third higher high on lower buying pressure? Still makes me think that this is just going to go bang and melt down, and we're going to see a big sort of candle to the downside when this does eventually come off. This to me just feels like a squeeze that's just going higher, higher. It's not giving anybody a chance to get off, and it's just pushing up and up and up because we did have that big sell down here. Second effort, buyers stepped up the thing and pushed it a bit higher. Okay, that's fine. But as you can see, it's just not really giving anybody that got short through here, well, they're stopped out, or they're sort of really sort of starting to sweat up along these two levels over here. So we'll have to see how this one goes. But again, 4 hour, this is the third high pushing up through here, where we're not seeing the RSI replicate that at the same time. So yeah, we'll see how that one sort of plays out. But where we are, we got half an hour now till CPI. We've also got sort of New Zealand business confidence. Yeah, okay, that's not really too much coming out there. So we'll see how this one plays out. All right, that's it from me.